2021. It's Friday night, and it's been a week back at school, and I actually want to prepare a dish that's called beef and biscuits. I've made this a couple times. I've made it once on the Dutch oven outside on charcoal, and I've made it before on the Lodge porcelain Dutch oven, and that's how I'm going to do it tonight. This is a modification of this recipe from the the Backwoods Gourmet. I'll include a link in the YouTube description to that original video, so shout out to the Backwoods Gourmet. This is a very flexible recipe, and it's really tasty, and I love it, and this is a favorite of mine. And I've cooked it actually, I think I've cooked it twice with venison, so this may be the first time I'm going to use beefsteak. But we'll go over the ingredients a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't have an assistant today to run my camera, so we'll see how this works with me doing my own camera work. But here we go. All right, so just to kind of recap the ingredients, of course you're going to want to have, I don't know, maybe you don't have to have a Dutch oven with this, but I think to do the biscuits, in the oven with, you may not have to, but this is how I've done it before, so that's going to be an essential, piece of equipment. We're going to just do some cheesy biscuits, and I'm only just, going to use some Bisquick with some cheddar cheese. For the beef tonight, I actually, well, I'll cut that up here in a second. I'm going to use some flat iron steaks. We've been ordering our meat from a place called Butcher Box. I'll actually put a link to that also in the description. It'll be like an affiliate link. But we do it every other month. It was too much for us to do it every month. But it's grass-fed beef. It's I guess organic chicken. Really quality meat, and it ships with dry ice. And anyway, we've enjoyed that. And so I have a couple flat iron steaks. Not enough to give everyone steak themselves, but by putting in this recipe, it's going to stretch a little bit further. So I'm going to be using just regular flour. We're going to dredge the meat in, and I'm going to season it with just some Montreal steak seasoning. Then a little later, we're going to add some black pepper and some crushed rosemary. We're going to cook a bay leaf in there for a while. I'm going to use some onion, and then after we initially cook the meat for about 30 minutes, I'll put in some celery. I'm going to put probably a little more onion, some bell pepper, and then some carrots as well. So let's go ahead and start cutting this up and getting ready. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is get our meat cut up and go ahead and let it kind of marinate and sit a little bit in the seasoning and the flour that we're going to dredge this in. This actually is probably, you don't have to have this high a quality of meat to have this be a successful recipe. You can probably use just about any kind of meat that you have, or stew meat or whatever. Like I said, I've cooked this with venison a couple times. Make sure I don't cut myself there. That'd be lovely on the video. And so, this is going to be high-end beef biscuits. I've never actually used flat iron steak for this before, so I expect this is going to be quite tasty. But I like to just kind of cut this up sort of stew size, and what we're going to do is we're going to season this with this Montreal steak seasoning, and then we're going to put some flour in it. We're going to dredge it in the flour, and then we're going to let it sit. So let me just throw this paper towel that I've wet down underneath there. Hey, look at that. Now we're not going to be scooting around a lot. So if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe you watch a lot of cooking videos, and I certainly do. And I enjoy learning a lot of different tips. Sometimes those little things that people mention that aren't necessarily part of the main recipe end up being one of the most valuable things that I do. Moose has brought his toy snake in, so this is our golden retriever who just went to the vet today and had a year-old checkup with all of his shots and everything. So unfortunately for the video in the evening after he eats, which he's already eaten, he is paying some close attention here. I think he's off camera, but his nose is right here. Moose, get back. He likes to run around with his toy and squeak it and put on a big show for everybody. Okay, so we got that cut up. I'm gonna go ahead and get a generous amount here of the Montreal seasoning, and I'm just gonna put that on, and I wanna get that mixed up really well with all of my meat. As a rule of thumb for the quantity to use, it can just be based on the size of your Dutch oven. So I think this is a 12-inch Dutch oven that I'm using. I think I'm probably just going to cook all of my meat. The original recipe basically says, you know, just put the meat down to where you cover the whole base of the Dutch oven. All right, so we are ready to start cooking on the Dutch oven. We're gonna warm up the lid actually about halfway through the cook here. Like I said, this is, I think, a 12-inch Dutch, and so we're gonna use probably 3 or 4 tablespoons. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on kind of medium-high heat. We're gonna use about 3 or 4 tablespoons of cooking oil. Forgot to mention that, vegetable oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that warm up and get kind of sizzling hot. I'm gonna put a little water in there just to make sure that it's gonna be sizzling enough. And so here in a couple minutes, I'll be ready to start putting in my beef. Just a tiny bit of water there to the oil just to confirm that yes, indeed, it is hot and ready. So we're going to go ahead and put our beef in there. Again, the recipe that I watched really said you just need to fill the bottom of the Dutch oven with your beef, and that should really determine how much you have. We're going to see how close we come to filling it with all this, and I think it's going to be pretty close, and I think I'm just going to cook it all. Because I could save it and cook it in something else, but I don't really want to. We're going to brown this and let this brown up, and I'm going to go ahead and add some onions here after I start to brown it, and then we're going to go ahead and cover it up and let it cook for about 30 minutes. So, we got our steak browning up here in the oil, and I want to let it brown up. And what I'm going to do is I've got a couple. Well, I basically am going to use a big onion, but I've cut up a half of it that I'm going to put on here, and then I've got a few stalks of celery, and I'm going to go ahead and put 2 of those in here for starters. And these are going to cook down into the broth and the gravy. And so what I want to do now is actually get some beef broth that I'm going to pour in here, which I fortunately do have. I forgot to mention this, and remember, one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to go ahead and prepare this dish with some ingredients. I'm going to pour, I don't know, half a cup or something like that of just regular beef broth, and then I'm going to stir this up, and we're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes. And what I'm hoping is that this is all going to kind of cook together and cook down, kind of form a little gravy here. And I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. So it was about halfway there towards high. We're going to go down to about 3. I go up to 10. So we're going to simmer this for, we'll try about 20 minutes, and we'll check and see how it's doing. Set the timer. So we haven't been going too long here, but I'm just checking how we're doing, and I'm gonna gonna stir a little bit. Want to have this burn to the bottom of the Dutch oven, but I do want it warm enough that it's gonna cook down and make a good gravy. So I think I'm actually gonna turn it down just a little bit more so it's just at a simmer. All right, we've been cooking about 10 or 11 minutes. I went ahead and put a bay leaf in there. I forgot to do that. Earlier. That's recommended. You can see that the beef broth and the beef is all cooking into a nice gravy there, which is what we're wanting. I'm going to lose my bay leaf here and not be able to find it a little bit later. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and let that cook for another 8 or so minutes. We're gonna make our biscuits. All right, so we're gonna make our cheese biscuits just using regular Bisquick here. The recipe says if you want 8, you want to use 2 1/4 cups of original Bisquick, and you want to use 2/3 a cup of milk. Well, 8 biscuits would be a little bit much for this, and I think I probably want to have about half of that. So I'm going to try to use about a cup of mix, and I think that's going to mean about 2/3 a cup of milk. I'm going to go ahead and mix in my pepper and my rosemary now as dry ingredients, and then I'll mix them up, and then I'll go ahead and add my milk. Actually don't have that much milk, so we'll hope that we can get that stretch. In a pinch, I'm sure we could use some water, but yeah, it's gonna taste a lot better if it's milk. So I want to make these cheese biscuits. I almost thought about using, and sometimes I get this, a Red Lobster, maybe a lot of cheese. I use a Red Lobster biscuit mix that I like a whole lot, and that would probably be really good with this too. But we'll just go ahead and mix this in, and then I'm gonna try to just make a sticky and not too wet biscuit mix. So if you have buttermilk, and you can use buttermilk, and if you got it, use it. Again, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go to the store and get some more milk tomorrow. We cooked a turkey for Thanksgiving, of course, but we didn't cook one for Christmas, and I've been having an itching for turkey, so I'm actually gonna bake a turkey tomorrow, and I'm definitely gonna need a few more ingredients to be able to do that. So I don't know if that's gonna be too much. Oh shoot, let's just use all the milk we have. I hope this is gonna make a good paste. We got about 5 more minutes left for our meat and gravy to mix up. Not bad. It's actually worked out pretty good there. So maybe it's a little bit wet. Of course, maybe I'll add just another touch of Bisquick. So what we're trying to go for here is just a nice dough, and it can be good if you want to even make this a little bit earlier. It may rise a little bit. We don't want it to be too wet. So I'm going to try to make, I think, just 4 biscuits, and I'm going to drop these in. So that looks like a nice consistency. So we'll let that sit in the bowl, and then I've got my other ingredients ready to go here. So I got the other half of my onion and 2 more stalks of celery. I've got some green pepper, and I went ahead and cut up some carrots. So we'll let our meat cook a little bit. I think I'll stir it again, and here in about 4 minutes we'll put these in, and I'll start preheating actually my lid, and we'll be underway with biscuits here pretty soon. All right, look at that. That is the timer going off, saying we have cooked for 20 minutes. And what I'm actually going to do right now is I've got my oven preheating up to 450, and it's maybe a little bit warm. I'm going to put this lid down here in my oven, as I want to preheat it. And let's take a look at how the meat is getting. So that is looking pretty good. A little bit of stick on the bottom, but not bad. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off right now. And what I'm going to do, well, I don't know, I'll keep it on low, I guess. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be mixing in my other ingredients. And I don't necessarily need to stir all of these. I'm going to kind of put these on top. But I've got my onions that are going in here, and a little bit of celery, not a whole lot. I had a bunch of green pepper, so we're going to use green pepper, and then I'm going to use carrots. You can put whatever vegetables you want. I've cooked this before with some broccoli. I don't do potatoes. Potatoes would kind of make this, I think, be a little bit more like a stew, and I don't think I don't know. I don't think that's exactly what I'm going for here. So I'm preheating the lid because if I was cooking this in the Dutch oven outside, I actually wouldn't have any heat underneath it at all. When I'm modifying this to cook it inside, we are going to, of course, have heat underneath. We're going to have heat all around. And I don't want the oven to have to heat up that lid. I want it to be hot already. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put my biscuits here on top. And I want to try and divide these. I'm going to try to, I think, just go for 4. And this is going to be a mess, but that's okay. These are drop biscuits, so I'm going to try to drop 4 of these on. What I'm going to do at the end of the recipe is I'm going to actually take the lid off, and I'm going to put the oven on broil, and that way we're going to be able to get some browning at the top. I actually look forward. Well, I think I have cooked this one. Yeah, I cooked it one time outside, just according to the recipe. This is a modified recipe. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try to get our lid off, and get my other hot pad. My heat's coming out of my oven, but I at least got my racks ready. I'm going to go ahead and put this in. So go ahead and leave this in. Let's start for 15 minutes, and we'll kind of see where we're at after 15. All right, our beef and biscuits have been in for 15 minutes. There's the timer. So what I'm going to do is take these out, and I'm going to check to make sure my biscuits are completely done. And then I actually want to put them in for a little bit more on broil. Ooh, that's warm. So that I can toast the top. So let's come in here and see, kick my oven over to broil. Okay, and here's the time of truth. Oh, look at that. That is looking great. Let me go ahead and test this. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these bad boys back in here. And what I have to be careful of, and sometimes I'm not very good at this, is watching this thing like a hawk so that we don't burn the top. So, leave that in for a little bit here, turn on the light, watch this. We're probably just going to be about 2 minutes, and we're going to see how, well, hopefully they're going to be toasted. All right, 2 minutes was not quite enough time, but move yourself. 3 minutes looks like it's going to be about perfect. So we'll go ahead and pull these off and move in so you can see. This is looking like it finished up. So to be clear, the recipe for the biscuits says that you want to cook them about 8 to 10 minutes, but of course that's not with a Dutch oven lid on them. I definitely think preheating the lid was an important thing. So I'm going to go ahead now, move this over to the table, and we're ready to eat. Okay, it's the time of truth. We've already seen that appears to have turned out pretty good, but here it is. So we have our requisite, we must serve and try it. So a very large, cheesy biscuit there. Looks pretty tasty. And now, moment of truth. It's gonna be hot. Very hot. But the biscuit is cooked all the way. Yum. It's a winner.